and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing Beachy Christmas and its coordinating dies. We are also going to be introducing the gorgeous Christmas palm tree. So let's go ahead and check these out. First, we're going to take a look at Beachy Christmas, and this stamp set is so cute. We have this little palm tree wrapped in Christmas lights, Santa in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts, a surfboard, and a sandcastle with Christmas lights, a little bucket, and also a shovel for helping set the scene. We also have these really cute little Christmas gifts with a pineapple wrapped in a bow and a shell wrapped in a bow too. We also have some little individual shells that can help set the scene, a coconut drink for Santa, and then a little stocking that you can add to the tree, and an ornament that you can add to the tree as well. And then another little individual shell. And of course, we have to have a nice sunshine, right? These little stamps are cute little sand lines that you can stamp in your sand to add some texture. And then we have an adorable tiny little heart in both an open style and a solid style. And of course, some sunglasses for Santa too. There's a little smiley face and some rosy cheeks that fit perfectly in the sun, which looks really cute on cards. And then we have these really great mix and match sentiments. So we have warmest, and then you can mix and match it with the phrase Christmas or winter, or also holiday. So it would say warmest Christmas wishes or warmest winter wishes, etc. You can also combine those phrases with have a relaxing. So have a relaxing Christmas, have a relaxing winter or holiday. There's seasons greetings, which might be one of my favorites, and also have yourself a Merry Beachy Christmas. So you can use Merry Beachy Christmas on its own or combine it with your have yourself a. We also have a tiny little one that says slurp that's so funny with the drink, and also an exclamation point that's perfect for adding to the ends of phrases. Now I'm going to use my Copic markers to add some color to these adorable images, and these are so much fun to color in. So I'm starting off with the trunk of the tree, and I'm using some E40s, and then I went ahead and did the coconuts. But when I did the coconuts, I did them in a different shade of brown, but it just really didn't match the trunk, and I thought, oh gosh, well what do I do now? So I brought back some of the markers I used on the trunk, and I just laid it over top of those E20 markers I used for the coconuts. It kind of toned it down and helped it all coordinate. So I love that that worked, and I wanted to try to remember that for next time when I color something in and it doesn't quite look right. I'm just going to go over it with the previous markers and help it all blend together. Now I'm using some really bright greens for this palm tree, and they are looking just so gorgeous. And then for the lights on the tree, I'm going to do some rainbow order just to have some nice, pretty bright rainbow Christmas lights. And I'm using 2 markers for each, just adding a little bit of the dark on one side and then the light on the other, so they really look like glowing Christmas lights. Now for Santa, I'm adding red to his Santa hat, of course, but I'm also bringing the red into the flowers on his Hawaiian shirt. And I think it's a nice way to tie the Santa hat into the Hawaiian shirt. Now for Santa's beard, I didn't want to leave it just plain white. I wanted to give it a little bit of detail, so I used a warm gray marker and just added a little line around the outside edge, and I feel like it really helps his beard pop. And I did the same thing on the white parts of his Santa hat as well. I colored the rest of his Hawaiian shirt green, and I love that it's got the traditional red and green in it, and then gave him some khaki shorts out for the beach, and then going to use some bright yellows for the sun. At first, I was going to color the surfboard red and green as well to have those traditional holiday colors, but then I wanted to bring in the kind of turquoisey color of the water that's going to be in my card, since this is a beachy Christmas card, and so we're going to add some of that turquoise to the outside edge, but then bring in the red to help match Santa's hat. Now we're going to color in the sandcastle, and this is one of my favorite images to color. I don't know why, but it's just so much fun to add the little shadow onto the sandcastle, and then I really like to take my darkest marker and add tiny little dots so that it looks like sand. And then for the lights on the sandcastle, I'm going to use the same exact colors as I did for the lights on the palm tree so that everything coordinates really nicely. And then I realized I forgot the little windows on the sandcastle, so I colored those in with a dark brown marker. I'm bringing in a really pretty kind of shade of purple there for the bucket, and then a bright yellow for the shovel. And then I'll bring back that traditional red and green for the ornament. And that's what's really fun about this Beachy Christmas set, is that you can bring in some non-traditional colors mixed and match with the traditional red and green to make it feel like a Christmas card, even though it's got this fun beachy theme. Then I'm going to use those same red markers to color in all of the other things that I want to be red. The bows on the little presents there, and also, of course, our stocking and the little candy cane in the coconut drink. Then we'll color in the pineapple and the shell. For shells, I like using really, really light pinks and really, really light purples. I think it looks so pretty on a shell. It gives it that translucent look. And then we're going to add the same markers that we used for the coconuts up in the tree. We're going to add that for the coconut drink as well. Now these are the coordinating dies for the set, which you can bend apart at the tabs or use your wire snips to separate. We're going to take those dies, we're going to line them up with our stamped images, hold it in place with some low tack tape, we'll run it through the die cut machine, and then we'll have perfectly cut out images every time. And then here is a look at all of the images from the set. They are all so cute, and I love all of the fun scene building elements. And so there's a lot of ways you can mix and match these. You can add the sunglasses onto Santa, and he can be holding his coconut drink. You can have the ornament coming down from the tree and the presents around the tree. He can hold those little presents as well, or any of those other little elements. He can hold onto the surfboard, or he can actually go surfing too. Now, one of my other favorite things about this Beachy Christmas stamp set is that it's really, really fun to combine with your other favorite critters. So here I have the deer from Toboggan Together, which is one of my personal favorite critters. And I saw Maureen do this in a card and I thought, oh my gosh, this is just the cutest thing ever. We're going to have the deer surfing. And you could do this with a penguin. You could do this with any critter that you can find in your stash. So we're going to add our cute little deer to the surfboard. And then we're also going to give him the sunglasses. We added some white gel bent details to the sunglasses to make it look like the sun is kind of reflecting off of them. And look how cute and sweet this is. So you can imagine that you could create the most adorable surfing critter cards and have this fun kind of Christmassy feel with it by using Christmas critters like a deer or a penguin. So now we're going to start creating some cards, and don't worry, that little surfing deer is going to come back later on in the video. But first up, we are going to recreate the most gorgeous snow globe card by Tammy. So here we have the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on, and we die cut that from some woodgrain cardstock. Then we're going to take the largest stitch circle, and we're going to be combining these together to create a snow globe card instead of a Magic Iris Snow Globe card. So I love that this Magic Iris die can have so many uses. So we're going to take that stitch circle there, and we're going to cut it with a stitched hillside border die, so we'll have a nice little kind of sandy bank, and then we're also going to cut just a plain circle too. And then we're going to use our scissors to trim off the bottom of the snow globe. And there's a little embossed line there, so that's a really nice guide that you can just follow along with your scissors and cut off that bottom. Then what we're going to be doing is layering the circle on top to create a snow globe look without having the magic iris element in it. Now the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on also has this really cool little detail piece. We're going to die cut that from some silver metallic cardstock, and that's going to give us a really, really cool detail onto that wooden snow globe that's really going to give it that real snow globe feel. So now that we have all of our pieces die cut and we can start to see kind of how the snow globe's going to come together, we're going to be doing some ink blending to create our beachy scene for Santa. So here we're going to use some tumble glass ink, and we're just going to add some towards the bottom and let it kind of fade out into nothing at the top. And that's going to be our sunny day that's going to be going on for Santa. Then that other white piece that would be normally snow on a Christmas card, we're going to change that into sand. And that's what I think is so fun about this set. It just gives you a little bit of a different take on that classic snowy Christmas card. And it's really fun for those of us that live in warm weather climates. I also love the idea of thinking that, Santa needs a vacation too. He also goes to the beach, right? So there we've inked up the end of this with some vintage photo distress ink. Then we're going to smear some ink on a block, add a little bit of water, and we're going to create some splatters. So we'll pick that up with a paintbrush, tap the paintbrush on the edge of the acrylic block, and that's going to give some really great splatters of this piece that's going to make it feel like sand. Then the other thing that's going to make this really feel like sand is adding some white acrylic paint. So I'm using some Copic white here, but any white paint would work. We're going to mix that with water and then just tap that paintbrush on the edge of an acrylic block and get a bunch of different splatters onto this, and it really helps it look like sand. And now we can layer that onto our blue circle we created earlier, and you'll see how that snow globe piece is going to layer over top to create a really, really cool look. So now we're going to take out the Beachy Christmas stamp set, and these are the images that we stamped and colored and cut earlier in the video, and we're going to start layering this into the scene. And these scenes are so much fun to create. So we're going to add the cute little palm tree and also the sandcastle with the Christmas lights. The little ornament hanging from the palm tree just makes it. And then we can add those cute little elements like the little shell at the bottom to help set the scene. Of course, we need a bright sun in the sky for Santa, and then we're going to have his surfboard, and Santa is going to be holding on to his coconut drink and then hanging out by his surfboard and palm tree. All of the other images we put down with tape runner, but for Santa, we're going to pop him up with some foam squares, so he's kind of the star of the show. Now here we have a wavy sentiment banner die. We're going to die cut some chili pepper cardstock. We'll prep it with an anti-static powder tool, and then we're going to stamp one of the sentiments, which is warmest Christmas wishes. And we've kind of curved it on the block to match the curve of the banner die. We'll stamp in some clear embossing ink, and we can sprinkle on some white heat embossing powder and then heat it up with the heat tool to have a nice bright white shiny sentiment. Then we can add some tape runner to the back of that and then layer that right on to the snow globe. And this is looking so cute. Oh my goodness, Tammy, this card is just so sweet. So now we're going to die cut one of these stitched rectangle frames, and then we're also going to take out some of this Let It Shine paper. This is from the original Let It Shine collection, and it has a really great red and white stripe that is perfect for Christmas cards. So I love bringing in something that's like a little bit more classic, like this candy cane stripe in the background, and that's going to help bring our beachy Christmas scene into this kind of Christmassy feel. I just think it's so cute and so much fun. So we're going to layer the snow globe on top there, and then just for a little extra fun, we're going to take out some older stamp sets, and we're going to take out that adorable little flamingo. So this is a really fun way to go into your summery tropical stuff and make some really, really fun Christmas cards. You could bring the toucan in from Toucan Do It. That would be adorable too. Like, you can really go and just have such a blast creating tropical Christmas cards. And now this card is all done, and oh my goodness, this just makes me smile. Now that we've created a card with just Beachy Christmas, we are going to take a look at the Christmas palm tree die. This die is so gorgeous. I love it so much. And it comes, of course, with our palm tree leaves and also the trunk. And then it has this string of lights that you actually thread the trunk through it. It's so cool, and we're going to show you how to do that in just a second. Some lights, of course, to add to your string of lights, some coconuts for the tree, some grasses to help set the scene, and then there's two cute little ornaments that you can hang from the palm tree. And I love the little detail, the little stitching that we have on the ornaments too. So now we're going to start putting this whole thing together. And so there's a lot of layering of die cuts. You can use colored cardstock, which we're going to show you here, or you can use markers or inks or anything like that, which we'll be showing you that idea in just a little bit. We're also going to be showing you how to use the Christmas palm tree kind of on its own and then mixed in with the Beachy Christmas stamp set. So there's really, really fun ways to use this gorgeous die. Now that we've layered our ornaments onto their strings, we can add our lights onto this string of lights. So I like to add drops on some of the lights, then I layer some of my little lights over top, and then I add some more drops of glue and then layer more of them. We're using some shimmer cardstock here, which looks really, really pretty. I also think sparkle glitter cardstock would look really, really cool as these lights too. So now we're going to thread the trunk through those lights. So you'll see we're going to take the lights and kind of wrap them around the trunk. So we're just going to thread that right through, up and down. And you can just kind of play around with it when you try it so that the lights look like they're really wrapped around the tree. And that's my favorite part about this die. It just makes it look incredible because they are actually going behind the tree trunk. It just looks so gorgeous. And then, of course, you can layer your leaves right on top and add your coconuts into the tree, which helps set the scene, of course. And then you can hang your little ornaments and add your grasses around the tree trunk as well. This tree looks gorgeous cut out of cardstock just like this, but because I was going to put it onto my card, I thought, let me add some details. So I'm actually just using a light green marker, and I'm just adding a little bit of a line right along the cut line that the die creates for me. And it looks really, really dark there, but you can see on the left how it dries. The Copic marker really dries into that colored cardstock, and it just gives it just a subtle little detail. We're also going to take a white gel pen and add some white gel pen lines to the leaves and the coconuts, and also some kind of like little splatters or dots all of the way around. Right now we're going to be recreating an incredible card by Audrey, and she had this in her leaves, and I just thought it really helped make them pop. So here I've die cut the largest outside in stitched rectangle, and we're going to be creating some clouds, and the cloudy stencil is perfect for this. And I'm going to be using some merman ink, which is my favorite ink to use with these clouds. So what I'm going to do is start onto the stencil and then move off onto the paper, and that's going to create this really cool cloudy shape. And this cloudy stencil has 4 different styles of clouds on it, so as you make your background, you can switch between the different sides to create a really, really cool look. So we're going to move that stencil away and you can see the clouds. We'll flip the stencil and use a different side of it that has a different style of cloud, and we're going to ink up the edge. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to switch to the next one there, and you can see how cool this is. And it's such a fun way to create a cloudy sky that's really, really perfect for the Christmas palm tree and the Beachy Christmas stamp set. So we want to create some sand. So we're going to die cut some paper bag cardstock, which is a really great sand color. And we're going to use that same largest outside in die so that it matches the background we just created. And then we're going to die cut that with a simple stitched hillside border. So it looks like a mound of sand. But to add a little bit of ink blending to it to help match with our sky, I'm going to take some crunchy leaf ink, which is a really nice brown, and we're just going to layer that over top of this to create a sand look. To continue to help the sandy look, I'm going to take some of this Copic white, which is kind of like a white acrylic paint. Just going to add some water in there, and then I'll pick up some of that with my paintbrush, and then I can just tap my paintbrush and create splatters onto this, and that's going to help give it kind of a sandy look. It's also going to help coordinate with all the white gel pen lines that we added to our Christmas palm tree. Then we can take our sandy hill and we're going to layer that onto our cloudy scene that we created, and just look how gorgeous that's looking already. So now we're going to bring back that Christmas palm tree, which is going to be a part of our scene. And we're also going to bring in some elements from Beachy Christmas. So we're going to take that cute little sandcastle and also a coconut drink. And then we're going to take out an oldie but a goodie that I know Audrey really loves, and that's making Frosty Friends. It's this great snowman stamp set, but instead we're going to make a sandman. And this was Audrey's idea that I thought was the cutest thing. So instead of coloring him white, we actually added browns and little dots to make him look like sand. So now we're going to add some foam squares to the back of our sandman instead of our snowman, and also to the back of that beautiful Christmas palm tree. And this is what's going to create our adorable scene here. So we're going to layer that palm tree in, and I'm kind of using that little sandcastle there as a guide because I want that to be kind of behind my palm tree. And then we can add that sandman there into the scene. And this is just like the most perfect Florida beachy card, right? And then for the sandcastle, I'm going to add that on with some tape runner just so that it's more in the background and our sandman and our Christmas palm tree are in the foreground. And then we're going to layer the little coconut drink there by that adorable sand slash snowman. Now for the sentiment, what we're going to do is we're going to die cut that same cardstock, the paper bag cardstock that we used for the Sandy Hill, and we're going to use the warmest Christmas wishes because, of course, that's such a great sentiment to go along with this beautiful Christmas palm tree. And we're going to stamp that onto that paper bag cardstock. We'll die cut it with a sentiment banner die. And then to make sure that it coordinates with our sand, we're going to be using that same crunchy leaf ink that we ink blended the sand with. And we're just going to add a little bit of ink blending onto that just to kind of have it coordinate into the sand and not stand out as if we didn't completely finish it, right? By adding that inking, there's something about it that makes it look special and makes it feel like the sentiment was almost written into the sand. And then we can layer that right on top of the scene. Next up, we are going to take a standard size card base that's 5.5 by 4.25, and then we're going to take out our really rainbow paper pack. And that's what I love about these tropical Christmas cards is you can bring out things like rainbow paper and make the most adorable cards. And so we're going to trim down a piece here that's going to be about 1 inch wide, and it's going to be 5.5 inches tall. And we're going to layer that just on the left side of the card. And Audrey does this a lot on her cards, and it's such a cute look to have this little pop of pattern paper just coming out on one side. So now we're going to layer this piece right on top, and you can see how that rainbow is going to pop. It goes along with the rainbow and our Christmas tree lights, and it just ties the whole thing together. And this card is just so cute and so sweet, and oh my goodness, I just love it. I think it's just so clever. Now, next up, we are going to be recreating a card by Letitia that was just so stunning that I loved so much. And I love the way that she did her palm tree and her sky. But we're going to be incorporating that really fun surfing deer that we did at the beginning of the video. And one of the things that I really liked is that she took a darker green marker and she added some detail underneath that cut line. And I just think that looks so cool. And you can use any green marker on any green cardstock and it's going to look amazing. And it just makes that tree almost look three-dimensional, like parts of the palms are going back and parts are going front. I also added some shading on the trunk just so that it kind of coordinated with the leaves on the top, and we're going to add some shading onto the little coconuts there. And I just picked any brown, a dark brown and a light brown, and it looked great. I'm going to take a white gel pen and add some white gel pen leaves, details to those leaves. It's kind of help it pop a little bit, and then some details to the coconuts too. Now, one of the things I love that Letitia did is she got this really cool neon look to her Christmas lights by adding color to white cardstock. So we're going to die cut all of these little ornaments and lights from white cardstock, and then we're going to use Copic markers to get these bright neon-y Christmas colors, and they're just going to be so pretty on this card. So what I'm going to do is take some of the colors for the lights, and then I'll use some of the colors on those ornaments. That way the lights and the ornaments are going to coordinate really nicely together. And we're going to be doing this fun little neon-y rainbow, so we'll have the bright neon pink, orange, yellow, etc. And then I'll bring some of those colors into the ornaments below. We're going to add this nice, beautiful turquoise there, and then we'll bring the turquoise into that other ornament. And then we can just go this way and keep adding color. And this is a really fun way to get a fun use out of your markers and not necessarily have to die cut a bunch of shades of cardstock. You can just die cut white cardstock and add the color with your markers. Now for our string of lights, I'm going to add some drops of liquid glue to some of those lights, and then I'm going to start layering them on in rainbow order, and then I'll add some more drops of glue and some more lights. And you can see how these neon lights, oh my gosh, they are just so pretty. I really wish I had a string of lights just like this. I'm going to layer my ornaments on their strings, and you can see how they're already just popping there. And then I'm going to take a gold marker. This was just a random gold marker that I found in my stash. You could use a gold gel pen would be a really cool way to do this too. And this was something that Letitia did that I thought was really fun. She added some detail to the tops of the ornaments, and then normally where you would put kind of white gel pen lines, she added the gold lines, and then she went back in with the white gel pen. And I thought that looked just so pretty, and bringing in the gold, I feel like tied all of the ornaments and the lights into the sand that we're going to have on the card too. So it's just such a fun look. Now we're going to take our little Christmas tree trunk and we're going to thread the lights through. And here I wanted to show you where I didn't thread it quite right, but it's so easy to fix it. So you'll see as I put it through, I'll be able to fix it at the bottom. So once I rewrap those lights at the bottom there, I can start to layer the palm tree on top. And you can kind of make some different decisions. You could layer the palm tree behind that top light, or you can layer it on top. And I decided to just layer that right on top because I wanted my palm tree leaves to be a little bit further down my tree. And I think it looks really, really great like that. Then once I layer that on, I can start to work on my coconuts. And layering the coconuts in the tree, I feel just makes it look so special. And I really like them with those white gel pen lines too. And this tree, oh my goodness, it's just looking so gorgeous. The gel pen, the gold pen together, and then also the little inking that we did with our markers earlier, and then all of those bright neon lights look so awesome together. I already had my cloudy stencil out on my desk from my previous card, so I thought, you know what, why don't we create another cloudy sky? And this cloudy sky was inspired by Letitia as well, and she did the Forget Me Not ink in the clouds, and I think it just is such a beautiful blue, and I hadn't tried that with clouds yet, and I think it looks so gorgeous. So we're going to ink that up, and then I'm just going to move it down and start inking a different type of cloud. And we're going to end up covering up the edges with a frame. So I made a little mistake on the edge of the clouds there, but I'm not too worried about it because I know I'll be able to cover it up later. Now I just sprayed some water on my stencil and then I'm just cleaning it off with a towel so that I can move on a different color. And right now we're going to use some merman. And so we're going to have these different colors of clouds. It's going to look really, really cool on this background. So I'm going to ink up one of those clouds there. And then for the bottom, I'm just going to add a light dusting of that same merman ink just so that the next layer of clouds wasn't bright white. Most of that's going to be covered up by a wave and sand, but I wasn't sure exactly what might show, so I just added a little bit of that merman ink. Now we're going to take this stitched wavy border, and we're also going to be taking one of our stitched hillside borders, and we're going to be die cutting some ocean and some sand. And so we've die cut that from some Watercolor Wishes paper and then also some craft cardstock. And on this Watercolor Wishes, I'm just going to take some minty fresh ink and just ink the edges just a little bit, just so that it helps kind of coordinate the whole thing, because since we did so much inking for the background. And we'll do the same thing for the sand. So we're just going to ink up the top of it just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more of a sandy feel. Now here we have a stitched rectangle frame, and I die cut that from cilantro cardstock, which is the same color of cardstock we use for the palm tree leaves. So it's going to kind of help bring everything in together. And here you can see how the scene is going to start to look, and we have that adorable surfing deer. And so once I had a good idea of how I want it to be, I'm going to use my little pencil to create some marks so that I can trim off the bottom part of my ocean and sand, because I had made those pieces a bit too tall, not knowing exactly how my whole scene was going to work out. And so now we can start to add a little bit more detail. So I looked at the sand and it didn't quite look enough like sand. So I thought I would bring out this white acrylic paint again and just tap the edge of my paintbrush and add some splatters to help it feel a little bit more sandy. And then we can start to layer the pieces in. So I'm going to layer my ocean piece and then my sand. And then I had both of these down with tape runner, but all of a sudden I thought, I think it would look a lot better with foam squares, because it's going to kind of feel a little bit more like a shadow box kind of feel. So I added some foam tape to the back of that and then layered it on top of the clouds. And I'm already really liking how that's going to look. Now, at this point, I realized I should have stamped my sentiment earlier, but I kind of forgot. So I decided to layer everything onto the card, put my sentiment exactly where I want it, pick it up with the Misty tool, and then I can remove any of those extra elements just to make sure I don't get ink on them. And then I'm going to ink that sentiment into the background. And thank goodness it all worked out okay. I was able to ink it on there thanks to that Misty tool. And then now I can add some foam tape to the frame. And I only need to add it around the frame where the ocean and the sand aren't, because those are already popped up. So we'll add some tape runner to that, and then we can layer that to start to frame out the scene. And once again, by adding that foam tape, it really gives it this cool shadow box feel. Next, I'm going to take that palm tree and we're going to add some foam squares to the back of that palm tree as well, and we're going to layer that into the scene. And Letitia's original card, which I'll show you at the end of the video, she just had the palm tree and the sentiment and the clouds and the waves, and honestly, I love it like this. I think it's just so classic and beautiful. But I had this surfing deer, and he just had to be added to the card. So we added him right onto the card there, and I think that is just so cute too. So I can't wait for you to see the comparison at the end of the video. I'm going to add some of the presents from the Beachy Christmas stamp set to kind of help fill in the scene below. And then we're going to add some of those ornaments that we created earlier. And some of the strings may be too long, so I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off any of the excess, and then it'll layer right behind that palm leaf so it looks like those little ornaments are hanging down. And I had colored and die cut 4 ornaments, but it ended up being way too many for my scene because I had all this other stuff going on. So I decided to just put 3 of the ornaments, and I'll save the other one for another card. Now I can layer this whole thing on a standard size card base that is 5.5 by 4.25, and this card is all done. It's so cute. I just love it so much. I love these tropical Christmas cards. They are just adorable. And speaking of adorable, my 2-year-old son loved the card so much he just had to jump in the video and say hi to you guys. And next up, you guys are in for a treat because Shari has the coolest Peekaboo pop-up card that is so much fun with the Beachy Christmas stamp set. So take it away, Shari.
I'm making a Peekaboo pop-up card with the Beachy Christmas images today. I've colored and cut out my images with the coordinating dies. I'm going to start with the card base using that Peekaboo pop-up die set. I've cut a piece of Bristol cardstock as well as a piece of craft cardstock. I'm going to use that Hillside that comes in this die set to cut the top of the craft cardstock and give myself a sandy beach. So I'm going to be doing some stenciling and inking on that white background piece. I'm using my wave stencils, and I've just stuck this down to my media mat with a little bit of removable adhesive, and then I'm going to line up my wave stencil so that I can stencil a ocean behind my sandy beach. So I've just put that piece of craft cardstock so I can make sure that I have that wave tall enough to where you're going to see that when the card is flattened out. I'm using some Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink, and I'm just covering this whole thing with that ink. I'm also going to pull in some Uncharted Mariner, which is a bit darker, and I'm going to pull that up from the bottom just to give a little bit of shadow. You won't see this too terribly much, but it is a nice detail to give you a little bit different tones of color. So I'm just adding that all over the bottom, even though you're not going to see it. When you look into the card, I don't want to see any white down there, so I'm just covering this whole thing with Distress ink. And then I'm going back with that Mermaid Lagoon and blending between my two colors. It's a very subtle shadow that you're going to get towards the bottom, but I think it's worth the extra effort to add those two colors of Distress ink. So you can see how that's going to look with that craft cardstock. Now before I take my stencil away, I'm going to put some droplets of just clean water with my paintbrush, and then I'm going to lay a paper towel on it and pick them up. And this is going to take away some of that ink and give me some texture. And now that I know what that looks like, I want to add a few more. So I'm just going to add a few more and touch it with my paper towel. Now, you can see some of those droplets went past my stencil. I'm going to wet it with the paintbrush and sort of pick up that little bit that went past the shape of the wave. And it's pretty clean. You're going to see I'm going to add glitter and stuff to this. It's not going to matter too much that there are some imperfections to this card. Now I'm using that same stencil, but I'm using the other side so I can use it as a mask. And then I'm using Salvage Patina Distress ink for the entire sky. So I'm just putting a nice layer of Salvage Patina all over the top of this panel. And then I'm going in with my Slimline Cloud stencil, and then I'm going to add a second layer. Same color, but just a little bit darker where I've added some more ink, and you get these really subtle clouds in the sky. I'm only going to do this 3 times to kind of fit all the way across. I'm going to add one more closer down to those ocean waves, and you get this really subtle look. I think that's kind of fun. It's not so stark as the white. Next, I'm going to ink up that craft piece that is my Sandy Beach. I'm starting out with tea dye distress ink, putting some along the top, and I'll do a little bit along the bottom because I really like the way that this ink will make that stitching detail around the edges sort of stand out. So I'll just add just a little bit to the bottom, just enough to make that stitching detail stand out more. And then I have just a slight bit of Vintage Photo to add a little more darkness to the top. Since this is sand, I like to add some texture. So I've got my watercolors here. I'm using a dark brown watercolor, and then I will also use a white so I get that nice sandy texture all over. Now that my pieces are dry, I can fold them along the score lines that the die creates, getting that Z-fold. The Z-fold will be on the left side of my back panel and on the right side of my front panel. Now for the little arm that makes the image pop up from behind. I've just cut this out of that same Bristol cardstock. That was because I wasn't sure if I needed to ink it or not. I'm folding along the score lines that the die creates, and you get these two little triangles. I'm using the arm that makes the image pop out closest to the fold where it is attached. And I'm just going to make sure that those are folded really nice. I actually did not feel the need to ink blend on this because the image that I put on here covered up that whole piece, and so you really didn't see it at all. So I didn't need to worry about hiding it. I realized I had it folded kind of the wrong way, but it's easy just to fold it the other direction. I do keep a piece of scrap paper that I use when I first get a die, and I make one really quick so I can understand how these interactive cards work. And it's a really good reference sometimes when you forget just exactly how this folds. So now that I have it folded the correct way, I can add a little bit of adhesive, and I'm just using an adhesive runner because I know that I might need to move this. See, I had it way too low. It's going to go out the bottom of the card. So I'm going to move it up. And then I'm going to just hold this together and make sure that it's working correctly. So nothing's glued down yet, and that looks perfect. That's gonna pop up right where I want it to pop up. So now to add the image, I've got Santa here, and he's gonna be surfing, holding his candy cane coconut cocktail that he has here. That's some talent if he can drink his cocktail and surf at the same time. And so I'm going to put him on his surfboard, and I'm going to attach this to that little arm so it looks like he has popped up and he's surfing. So you can see how he's wide enough to cover up that whole arm, and I don't need to worry about inking it. And I'll just trim off the top that's going to stick out past the top of his head because I don't need all that length. So I'm just going to add him with a little bit of liquid glue so that he stays on really well. But before that liquid glue dries, you're going to see I'm going to move the mechanism and make it move and make sure that he is completely hidden when he's popped down and that he works correctly. So you can see here when he's down, my surfboard is kind of sticking out a little bit. So before that glue's dry, I'm going to shift this over. He's still sticking out a little bit, so I'm actually going to shift the whole arm as far up as I can go, right near the edge. So that is why I used that dry adhesive on that, because I knew that I could make adjustments as I needed. So he's working really well. He's popping up right where I want him to. I like that that surfboard kind of follows the curve of the sandy hill. And I'm going to add just a dot of liquid glue underneath it now that he is where I want him to stay. And this is just because I've kind of pulled him off and moved him around a lot. So that adhesive is not as sticky as it was when I first stuck it down. And I want him to stay in place. I've added some double-sided adhesive tape to both sides of this panel so that I can adhere it to the background. I am only going to adhere one side at first until I get my sentiment stamped onto that background. So I'm just going to pull off that liner paper for that piece on the right and line up that corner and stick it down. So I'm not sticking down the left side just yet. I want to line up my sentiment, and I want to make sure that it's centered in the panel when it's closed so nothing gets covered up when the card is first closed. So I'm just laying my palm tree here, make sure I like the spacing. I'll pick this up and put it into my Misty, and I will stamp it in the Misty. I'll use my magnet to make sure it all stays nice and flat. I'm going to pick up that sentiment with the door of the Misty. I'm moving my magnet over so it holds Santa down too. And then I'm just stamping this in some VersaFine black ink. So now I can go ahead and adhere the other side down. I just wanted to make sure that I could lay it really nice and flat when I was stamping the sentiment. So I'm lining up that left side, sticking that down, and you can see how this is working out. So I had this kind of crack, and I'm keeping this in so you don't do what I just did. The paper kind of cracked where the ink wasn't. You had this really, really fine white line, and it bothered me. So I thought, oh, let's ink it. That was a bad idea. It was really dark because the outside finish of the paper had been cracked. But don't worry, we're going to cover it up. So I wanted to keep that in there so you learn from my mistake and just leave it. Just leave it. But this is how we're going to fix it. So I've got my palm tree. I've got my sunshine. That's going to cover up quite a bit of this dark line that I accidentally created on my background. And I also have some clouds from the spring showers die set. I'm going to be sprinkling those around in the sky as well. And I'm using one. I like that this is overlapping the edge. I will add one to the right side as well that overlaps the edge. I realize that this will mean it needs to be in a bigger envelope, but I just think that's kind of a fun look where those clouds overlap and go off the edge. So I'm putting the presents under the tree, which is a pineapple and a shell. I have my little sand castle with the colorful lights on it. I add that to the beach. I also have the little sand pail and the shovel that I'm going to add by the sand castle. And I haven't glued all my clouds down yet. I am going to add some more. I've laid them out where I want them to be, and I'm just going to add those. The one I'm gluing right now, I did have to make sure it was glued down really well so that Santa didn't catch his head on the cloud. And then when I got all finished, I felt like it's kind of cool when you pull it, that sort of empty bottom right corner has something that kind of reveals itself too. So there's some really tiny shells in this stamp set. I stamped and colored those and added those. And then finally, I needed some sparkle on this card. So I have my sparkle glaze pen. I'm adding it to the tops of the waves on each side of Santa. And I'm also adding just little dots of it to the lights. Once it's dry, I'm going to fold it back close and finish that glitter that's on the wave so that goes all the way across, so I don't have a void where Santa pops up. So you can see you get that nice glittery finish. It's almost like the sun shimmering off the water, which I think is really fun. And then you pull that open and there's Santa on vacation enjoying his peppermint coconut cocktail.
This card is so cute, Shari. I just love the scene when it's closed and then the surprise of the surfing Santa when you pop it up. Ah, it just makes me smile. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And first up, this card by Callie is so gorgeous. I love how she combined the Christmas palm tree with our adorable Santa. I just love the bright yellow sun rays in Marine's card, and then the best surprise is when you open up the Peekaboo pop-up, you get that surfing deer. How cute and fun is that? Oh, I just love it. This card by Lynette is so sweet. I love that it's mostly a die-cut card and that she added the string of lights into the palm tree leaves. It's so cool. And then here, this card by Elena is so gorgeous. I love all of those layers of sand and how she layered multiple palm trees into the scene. Here's the card by Letitia that inspired me to make mine. Isn't it gorgeous? I just love how she just has the Christmas palm tree off to the side and then the sentiment, just beautiful. I just fell in love with Megan's snow globe card. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. And I love that ugly and bright deer with the sunglasses at the bottom. This card by Elise is so sweet, and I love that she has the hot foiled Be Merry sentiment along with her Santa holding all the presents. This card by Yanea is so much fun. I love how she did those stripes in yellow and white. It's just gorgeous. And then here, Kara created such a cute sandy scene, and I love that she brought that big sign with the sentiment season's greetings in it. This card by Rebecca is so sweet. I love Santa hanging out by his Christmas palm tree. And then here, Grace used these beautiful soft pastel-y colors in this really fun shadow box card that I just adore. And then this is the card by Tammy that inspired us to make ours today. I love how she added the flamingo to it. Then Melissa created a platform pop-up with Beachy Christmas, and I just love it, and I can't wait to make one just like it. And we cannot wait to see what you guys create with Beachy Christmas and Christmas palm trees, so make sure to share it with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!